Welcome to the first episode of Kaizen Kast. I did speak earlier about my life and gave you a little background and history on where we were going with this podcast. And I'd like to touch base on a couple things today to try to fill everybody in and also try to help people along the way. I'd like to tell you about when we spoke about the how I handled, coming off my addiction of opioids. I just want everybody to know, number one, obviously I'm not a doctor. Number two, I don't do things in the normal way. I do things to extreme, which obviously you can see with the amount of pills that I was taking, was probably not the safest way to go about coming off the opioids, just quitting cold turkey and living in hell for 4 straight weeks. I don't advise that for many people. I'm not saying that you can't do it because I'm living proof that you can. The reasoning behind my situation was because I actually spoke to a few doctors actually told me they thought I could have died from doing it the way I did, especially how heavy I was. So I don't advise that on to anybody to do something like that. But I will say that the reason why I did it my way, there's a couple reasons. One is that I was hiding from everybody, so I didn't want anybody to know truthfully what I was doing. Two, I wanted doctors actually wanted me to try Suboxone. I had spoken to a few different people. They said they had tried Suboxone, but Suboxone to me was just another chemical, another drug that was gonna probably manipulate you into staying on that for even longer. It's almost like, I guess if you want to say people that quit smoking, they go from smoking cigarettes to just taking the Nicorette or the Nicorette gum. I just know that I would have probably been on Suboxone for who knows how long, probably still on it today. And I just didn't want to do that anymore. So that was the reasoning for me quitting cold turkey. And the reasoning behind all that was because I also want you to understand that my addictions it wasn't just opioids. So you actually heard obviously the drinking, there was gambling, even my compulsion of making money. Like everything I do is two extremes. And what I was always trying to find was happiness. And I thought happiness was created through all these things that truthfully are not really great for you. Happiness comes from the inside, obviously, which I struggle with a lot. I think a lot of people struggle with daily. And causes us to actually do things that kind of mask our problem of trying to find happiness, whether it is drinking, whether it is taking a vape or a cigarette or something. Everything always has consequences to it. Instead of actually, what's the best? Maybe we can do meditation. Maybe we could do some deep breathing. Maybe the best thing that's ever happened to me was me getting back into the gym. So I really think that the way our society is set up for us to take shortcuts and to mask our problems to make ourselves feel better. Like I told you earlier about myself, whether it was something that was super positive in my life, I said, we got to have a party. If it was super negative or we had a really bad day in the market, let's go talk about it over drinks. And then let's go do dinner. And then, who knows what comes after that, or where was I getting my actual sensation of feeling great was let me hop on a plane and go out to Vegas. Try to escape to places or do things for what I thought was happiness, but it really wasn't. The joys of life don't come from how much money you make or how many cars you have or how many houses you have. It's the everyday battle that you can actually get through and finish today and say, man, I can put my head on the pillow and I did an unbelievable job today. And there's days where, I say, I've said this to a lot of people in my life. Some days you hit in the 4 hole, which means if you play baseball, some days you hit number 4, and then some days you feel like you're hitting in the 9 hole, which means you're hitting last. Doesn't mean that you're a bad player. It just means that not every day's perfect. And we have to actually realize that masking problems with alcohol, with drugs, with gambling, with whatever vices people have, and truthfully, I've had every one of them, and I thought that would actually help me cope with life. They really don't. It's the everyday struggles of getting through it, and then looking yourself in the mirror and going, "You did a good job today. You did a really good job." And it could be as simple as that you got into the gym for 25 minutes for the first time in 2 years, and then you walked out of there sore as hell, and you went home, took a shower, and you're like, all right, man, I can do this. So that's what we're looking to strive in this podcast to, not just masking problems and having situations that turn into problems, situations that can actually turn you into a negative instead of a positive. And truthfully, I struggle every day with that. And I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, my wife will tell you if she was here, my mood swings are, I'm sure, way worse than most, because I internally fight with that battle every single day. Am I proving this person wrong? I shouldn't be proving anybody wrong. I should be working on being a better person. And some days that's hard for me. So with that being said, I really want to move forward with this in the right direction, and really continually talk about how we can battle with these situations and not use opioids or not use alcohol or any other drug that allows us in our society today that's socially acceptable. I might have said this earlier on too, that we've now come to the point in our life where weed is acceptable. Young kids that actually can vape with that. So nobody is really walking around with a clear head. Everybody's kind of picking and choosing what the next poison's going to be, instead of actually trying to work through it. And I'm not saying that there aren't people out there that don't need some sort of medicine, but I think when it's so readily available and so easy to get, it makes people's decisions a little bit easier to go down that path and use it more often than not. And I'll be the first one to tell you that with my compulsive behavior, I mean, it's as simple as the weed gummies for me at nighttime when I was using them to sleep. 1 led to 2, led to 3, led to 4, led to 5, led to 6. By the end of it, I was taking 8 to 10 milligram gummies a night. Again, that's not normal. I understand that, but when you have to get to that point where it's just a ritual and it has to happen, that needs to stop. And I didn't realize that until I finally quit everything, because it took me years. Like I said, I quit opioids in 16. I quit drinking in 20. And then I stopped weed gummies last year because I thought I needed that to help me sleep, and I don't. I take magnesium. There's so many natural herbs out there and supplements that you can take to help you with your body, your mind, your sleep patterns, all that stuff. And I just feel like the road we go down with the way everything is socially acceptable to do, it really upsets me. So this is one of the reasons why I think I should be talking about it. Just to switch up gears or move on to a different topic, it's semi related, but it's something that's always what I've always thought about, and I actually spoke to my father about it over and over again when he was here on this earth. He used to say to me, you have to remember at some point, and I'm going to talk about sports because that's where my life was from basically my whole life until I went to Wall Street. He was like, at some point, this kid's game is going to end. And it truly is. All the sports that we play are kids' games. And whether that ends in Little League, whether that ends in high school baseball, whether that ends in college baseball or ends in pro ball, you still have an enormous time of your life left to live. And I think that's one of the things that, well, me personally, I struggled with because it was like an identity thing, I guess you want to call it, where you're big man on campus at school and you end up not getting drafted, and all of a sudden your world can completely change. And I had no idea where my identity was at that point because I was just nothing but an athlete. I have a feeling that happens to most young players. I think it hits harder when you get to the high school, college, pro level. I know some guys that are professional baseball players that are just retired that actually, we had this conversation in the golf cart a couple weeks ago. He just retired from the MLB and he was trying to figure out his next steps and his identity. And he understands that sometimes there's some self-destruction that goes on with it because you're lost. And I think I lived in that life of being lost for a long, long time. And I guess it just took me a lot longer to realize that you don't have to live in a world of self-destruction to have a great life and to try to beat everybody and everything, to try to make the most money than everybody else. It doesn't create happiness. And I know I use that word over and over again, but I feel like where we are today in society, I would like to see more happiness and less anger. And again, I have my moments. I'm not going to lie to you at all. I won't lie, because I lied to so many people for so long in my life that it's not ever worth it. And I tell my kids that all the time. I apologize to my older kids, and I tell my youngest son now, who's 10, that we do not lie in this house. That's why the relationship his mother and I have together is great, because we do not look at each other and tell lies, or we do not take each other's side when it is a lie. We look at each other in the eye. We tell the truth. We know what's going on in each other's life. And that's the most important thing. I think society today allows us to manipulate the truth. So when you do stuff like that, that really gives people outs and doesn't make people accountable. I'm 110% positive in my life. I've always been accountable, even for mistakes I've made. Gone to people and apologized later on in life, and sometimes apologize for things I wasn't even wrong about, because there's accountability. And I think we lack that in America today. And I'd really like to see us do a better job of that. And, I see most guys that play sports and women too, that play sports, you can see that there's a lot of accountability in their lives. But then you can also see the fact that, like, you're not sure which road you can go down. There could be a road of self-destruction, or it could be a road of, I have a plan mapped out in my life, and this is what I'm going to do. There's not a lot of again, I'm not one of them, so I can't say there's not a lot, but I think there's more people that lean towards how I've acted in my life after sports than not, and that have mapped their life out at the end of their career, whether it was in their 20s, their 30s, or even after high school, and have been such a competitor in their lives that there wasn't some sort of self-destruction in there. And again, this is just me speaking from my heart. I don't have stats. I don't have that, but I'm just telling you from my personal experience. That's how I feel. And there's a lot of people that may disagree with me and be like, no, I've had guys on my team in college that actually had a map, a roadmap out, and they lived it perfectly. Actually, one of my college roommates and he was captain with me his senior year. He basically did exactly what he was going to do. As soon as he got out of college, he had a roadmap, and he's been doing it ever since, and he lives a great life. But I also see there's a lot of guys that go down the path that I was down, and sometimes it's hard to come back because there's so many lies, and there's so much deceit, and you're hiding so much. One of the biggest things that I think that we forget as people, never mind just as athletes, is how to deal with adversity. Adversity, and I think this is what leads to most people's downfalls, and including mine. Because when there's adversity, it's easier to check out of the moment than it is to deal with the moment. And that's the most important thing in life. Like, that's what I'm learning right now after, I don't know how many years now. It's been 4 years of no drinking, 8 years of no opioids. And it's the day-to-day grind of dealing with adversity and being able to just face it head on. And at the end of the day, turn around and be like, okay, I did a great job today. And I can't tell you enough that there was times, where do I begin? There was times when any little bit would cause me to have adversity. That's when I would go have a drink. And it wasn't just one drink. As I said, it was multiple drinks. If somebody upset me, okay, let me mask the pain with an opioid and then go have a drink. It was never deal with the problem head on and think logically first. And what I would do is I would duck from the situation, but not physically. I'd always be present, looking at you in the face, but I would never take it head on in a position where, I could think clearly. And then I would always get angry because I feel like that somebody was trying to what's the word I'm looking for? Like, somebody was always trying to figure out a better, like a way to talk around me instead of talking to me as an adult. But they probably were talking to me. I just didn't realize it because I was always either had a drink in my hand or always masking the pain of whatever I was doing with something else. And, I found times where if I was bored in my life, then that would lead into, let me bet on some games, let me gamble. There's this thrill that I go through, this excitement that gives me a rush. I guess that's why I have a lot of high wins, and I have a lot of high losses too. So that up and down is very exhausting as a person. And it's trying to find that middle ground in that even keel every day, whether it's trying to make money, whether it's trying to, eat properly, sleep properly, all that stuff that I was never doing. But truthfully, the rush that I love that comes in my stomach when I win a big game, you hit a big shot as a kid in a basketball game. There's nothing greater than that. You hit a home run with the bases loaded in a game where it's tied 2-2 or whatever it may be in your life, where you get that feeling in your gut and it's the best feeling ever. That's the thing that I chased the whole time. And then when it didn't happen, how did I deal with it? The adversity part, not so great. Not so great. I always turned to something else to mask the pain. Instead of dealing with it head on, instead of working a little bit harder in my life to make my whatever it may be, my swing better, my temper better, handling my emotions better in situations. Even today, I struggle with that. And it's part of life. And I know a lot of people do. I just think that there's a lot of people out there that that would rather take the shortcut than really look themselves in the mirror and say, okay, this is what we need to do today to become a better person. And it's really hard. It is really hard some days, because I tell my kids all the time, it's a lot easier to take the shortcut than it is to go the straight and narrow and take on this adversity every single day, because it's in front of our face every single day. Every day of our lives, there's something new that pops up, and it's the people that actually can walk around with a smile on their face and move on to the next thing and keep checking everything off that they did for that day and making themselves feel great. Because at the end of the day, you know that feeling, because when you've accomplished a whole bunch of shit in one day, you're like, I feel great. And then maybe tomorrow, we as we are human, we like to take a lot of time off and even let our minds wander off into places that they probably shouldn't go. And we do these things because it's easier than actually dealing with what we need to deal with on a daily basis. And that's really what I want to do too. I have to do a better job with that myself, but I think I've been doing a better job with that over the past 2 years, 3 years. The other thing I have to do a better job with is my temper. And I feel like I'm doing a better job since I've gotten all the substances and all the alcohol out of my system for a very long time. But I still battle those demons every single day. I wish I didn't. I wish I didn't have that personality. I wish I had more of my son Ty's personality, where he's just even keeled. Everything's just smooth. Doesn't matter. Lets everything roll off his back. And if it does matter, I don't think you couldn't even tell if it did. Me, I wear my emotions on my sleeve. Everybody knows what the fuck's going on. That's good and bad too. There's pluses and minuses to everything, but you have to have some kind of balance, and that's the other part of life that I never ever had. It was either all or nothing. Like I told everybody before, go big or go home. That's really how I live my life, and the balance in my life has gotten a lot better. Because I've taken all this negative stuff out of my life and replaced it with positive stuff that maybe, I guess if it was, 7 or 8 years ago, I would have said that's fucking boring. Oh, you go to the gym? Oh, so you go to the gym twice a day now? Or I don't, yeah, sometimes I do that for my mental state. Not for anything else but my mental state sometimes, because the old T would have said, oh yeah, I'm going to go to the club. I'm going to go to the bars. I'm going to have a party. I'm going to just to mask all the problems that I was dealing with. And some of them weren't even external. Some of them were internal. A lot of them are internal. So that's the crazy part about it. I create some of these problems myself. From just being lazy. So that is definitely something that I feel like our society today has kind of drawn into. Like, it's easier to sit around and watch Netflix and order Uber Eats or order DoorDash, and before you know it, you're in this rut. And I'm sorry to say, this all happened during COVID. Made life a lot easier for everybody to have an excuse. They're working from home, but you're really not. You started drinking at noon, and then it was rinse, repeat, recycle, do that whole thing over and over and over again for almost 2 straight years, and that really kind of set the tone over the last couple of years of how people really react to things. And then if you actually call them out on things, people like get upset instead of being like, wow, maybe this guy or this girl really can help me with this. So I think today, I feel like I'm like an old school guy that actually wants to go back to the ways it used to be. And I know we're never going to go back there. But for me personally, this is the way that life should be. There's got to be a balance. There's got to deal with our adversity on a daily basis because it's never ever going to end. And we got to keep moving forward. That's the main goal. The other things I struggle with outside of just not even addictions is thinking about the past, of what happened in my past and how things have people have done what people have done to me, and how much money I've lost, and you try not to live in the past because you always have to look forward, because if you're living in the past, you're never gonna get ahead. But there's days where I fight with that because some things have happened to me that I don't know if I'll ever forget. I wish I could. Financially, mentally, physically, all that stuff always hits home. So, I have to continually look forward and really try to make a positive effort to be a better person every day, and really deal with adversity in the best way that I can. And I'm still learning, literally still learning how to deal with that. I was terrible at it. I truly was. I was truly terrible at it because it was easier for me to mask my pain and my anger and my disappointment. That's the biggest thing. Number one, somebody like myself never ever wants to disappoint anybody. I think I might have told you this. I'd much rather give than get, and that is true. But the disappointment, when I see people disappointed, it upsets me. But I never understood that I can disappoint myself until now. Like it's truly something that, like, if you're not happy inside, then you're creating disappointment, and I never knew how to handle it. And I'm learning now at 52 that this is really the way to go, and how to handle our situations. It's not just life's not just one big party, as a lot of these, I hate to say, a lot of these social media events happen. They show clips and everything looks like it's grand, and this guy's made $100 million, and they don't tell you about the backstory of really how he got there or how she got there to make all that money. It's just the highlights. And that's the world we live in today. Instant gratification is what I tell my youngest, and I tell my kids. Everybody's in the world of instant gratification, clicks and bites and little pieces of people's lives, but that's not success. And that's not how you handle adversity. That's not none of that. You really have to look internally, and then you got to face it every day and battle with it every single day. I look forward to the next episode.